Eskom is urging the public to reduce electricity usage this afternoon. In a statement out a short time ago, the power utility says generating units are severely strained. It's attributed this to the delay in returning units to service and the loss of multiple generation units. Eskom is warning that any further loss of generation capacity will prompt load shedding at a moment's notice. Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa has reiterated his assurance that government is working hard to eradicate the blackouts. In his weekly newsletter today, Ramaphosa has attributed Eskom's failures to aging infrastructure, policy missteps and the looting of public funds. The President says adding to Eskom's failures to maintain its infrastructure is the 36 billion rand debt by municipalities. He's convinced, however, that the establishment of a joint task team to accelerate investments in the new generation projects will help the situation. Eskom has repeatedly insisted that it is steadily addressing its challenges, with substantial new energy generation units being built. So still with the National Power Utility, Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts made headlines at the end of last week after Eskom board member Busisiwe Mavuso was asked to leave a meeting after comments that she'd made about the governing party being to blame largely for the problems at Eskom. She said, in fact, that the current management and board at Eskom cannot be the fall guy for the ANC's failures. For more on this, we're joined by Chairperson of Scopa, Mkhuleko Hlengwa. Mr. Hlengwa, very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Daytime Update. So why did your interaction with Busisiwe Mavuso last week explode in the way that it did?
Because she refused point blank as a board member who's been there for almost 5 years now to accept responsibility consistent with the fiduciary responsibilities that come with being a board member. Let me start off by saying the ANC mess is not in dispute. And I make the point that she will find that majority of us, myself included, agree with her, that the ANC mess is there for everyone to see. However, in the context of the meeting that we had, as a standing committee of Parliament with the board and executives of Eskom, she was there to account following the committee's oversight visit in 2019, which made 23 recommendations, having been to Medupi and Kusile. As you know, there have been cost escalations and the projects are not being completed on time. And the board which she serves in has already extended from the last visit the completion of Kusile from 2023 to 2024. Of the 23 recommendations made by the committee, they've only achieved 9 and 14 have not been achieved by a work in progress. Therefore, the context of the meeting becomes very, very important here because it determines at what level we were engaging. She is a board member. The board is the accounting authority of Eskom to Parliament in terms of the law. And therefore, the questions put to them, amongst others, about their performance agreements have to be answered in terms of whether they are making headway in turning things around. That board has been around for 4 to 5 years now, and that is a substantive amount of time for us to be able to demand answers from Eskom for the current situation. Nobody in the meeting accuses the board or levels any allegation against the board or the executives for the historic mistakes. But the expectation is, and it must not be lost, is that they are in office. They have got a fiduciary responsibility, and we want Eskom turned around. At this point in time, they are the people who have been enjoined with the responsibility of managing Eskom. Therefore, the buck stops with them. We are not ignorant to the political realities at play. That's why we went to Eskom, and that is why Eskom has been the one entity we have met with most in the 6th Parliament. And therefore, what we will not accept is an obfuscation and a running away from the responsibilities of office of those who are in office.
Let me ask you then, because Busisiwe Mavuso has said, as she did on Friday, that she's by no means saying that the board that she's currently a member of, along with the current executives, should not take any responsibility for what's happened during their tenure. She says on the issues that you said, that the goals that they basically had to meet, right, these targets, she says they've also provided reasons as to why they've only been able to get through a fraction of it. Given that then, is it your view that the current Eskom management and the board is a failure?
Well, we would not want to make that kind of assertion at this point in time, to give them the benefit of doubt amongst others, to provide responses, and for them to continue engaging with us. We understand the difficulties at Eskom. We're not ignorant to those. In fact, we have made the point that we are there to assist them as a board turn things around. Amongst others, Mthembu, is that there are duties which we need to perform of oversight with law enforcement agencies and the state security agency to assist the board and the executives achieve their job. This was not a referendum on the board, and therefore to arrive at the meeting now with the full-scale defense of the CEO is in itself falling short of the context of why we need to have met. I want to reiterate that the standing committee is a multi-party committee, and if you want to now draw us into party politics, you put us in a very difficult position, because that is a mandate outside our purview. Parliament is not immune to political discussions and political party discussions, but as a committee we have got a modus operandi which is determined by the rules and precedents of Parliament. So I can categorically say that she raised the right issue with the wrong people at the wrong meeting.
I'd like us, for the benefit of people who've missed it, I'm sure you've seen it multiple times since this moment happened, for people who may have missed it on Friday, we were going into the weekend, take a look at the moment that led to the walkout, and then we'll pick up with Mr. Hlengwa in a moment about the road ahead. Take a listen.
But what we will not accept and what we will not agree to, in spite of all the challenges that we're facing as an organization and all the efforts that have been put in place, is to have this board and Andre as the fall guy for the mess that this organization is currently experiencing. Because the reality of the matter is that this is not our mess. We have been brought in to clean it up, but we are not going to be the fall guy for the 300 and whatever billion of Medupi and Kusile that have still not been completed. Doing our best to try and finalize those projects, and as Andres said, we have committed that we will avail ourselves to be held accountable, Chairperson, to ensure that Kusile is finished by 2023.
So Busisiwe Mavuso, in a talk radio interview today, Mr. Hlengwa said that what she found quite offensive was that she was spoken to by you, scolded essentially as though she was a schoolgirl. With the benefit of hindsight, do you regret your conduct during that exchange?
No, I do not regret asserting the authority of a meeting, any meeting, which must have a particular sense of decorum and a particular sense of relevance to the issues at hand. In that clip that you've just played now, two things must be lifted. One is that they are there to clean up the mess. And the question is, have they succeeded in doing that? The board has been there for 4 to 5 years, and very little headway has been made, and that's why then they have to account. The second point is that the commitment of Kusile, which she refers to, has been moved by this board from 2023 to 2024, and that does not sit well with us, because Kusile has become an evergreen project anchored in evergreen contracts, and therefore has become a conducive and enabling environment for corruption, as we have seen with these projects since 2007. Therefore, she has to individually and collectively with her colleagues on the board and the executives be able to provide responses. If she says she's available to be held accountable, that meeting sought to do exactly that. And after she had left, we continued with the meeting, and the board members who were present and the executives continued to field questions and to provide answers, and some of them will be submitted in writing by the end of this week in order to enable us to finalize our report. So what I was really trying to get at, and I pleaded with her ad nauseum to conduct herself in a manner which was consistent with the meeting. She was speaking over the chair. I had to contain members of the ANC, amongst others, who felt triggered by the comments that she made. And I had to make sure that the meeting does not degenerate into a political party-anchored mudslinging match, because then the answers that we require would not have gotten. As I said, I want to reiterate, Tim, she raised the right issue at the wrong meeting. The ANC mess is not in dispute, but at the same time, it's common cause that the ANC Deployment Committee is the one that has deployed board members, as we heard in the Zondo Commission, and she's one such deployee. The question becomes, has she fulfilled her fiduciary responsibilities along with her colleagues at Eskom? And the jury is out on that, because she left the meeting. I didn't kick her out. I placed before her, please behave, meaning that conduct yourself in a manner consistent with the meeting or leave. So, she chose the latter.
The problem is a lot of South Africans, right, park the comments made by yourself and Ms. Mavuso herself. A lot of South Africans were indeed quite disappointed in the conduct from both sides. Now, what I'm trying to get to now is, how does Scopa, how do you as chairperson then move ahead with future interactions with the Eskom board and Ms. Mavuso specifically? Will there be a conversation to discuss what happened?
Well, I mean, I hold no personal, grudge or anything against her. I don't know her from a bar of soap, except that she is a board member and the other positions that she occupies. My only interest is that as a board member, she's accountable to Parliament and she is accountable to the South African public for the duties in which she has been entrusted with. We have given them recommendations which they must perform on, and they have to perform. That is a non-negotiable. And secondly, Thembi, the major area of regret here is that the clips that have been played throughout the weekend have not been the alpha and omega of what happened. It's been excerpts of it, and I think context is very, very important. We will continue engaging with the Eskom board and the Eskom executives, because this is not a personal matter. This is not an individual matter. It's a matter in the national interest, which requires all of us to actually conduct our working duty. And that is why I persisted that the meeting must go on so that we could get answers. When the committee meets, it will make the necessary recommendations. But as I'm saying, this does not prevent us from doing our job. And that is why I was saying it's regrettable that this becomes the hallmark of the oversight visit, ahead of the very complex and technical matters which require our collective attention to fix the mess at Eskom. We will engage with the political semantics and dynamics of it at the relevant platforms. But the committee, I maintain, cannot be drawn into party political politics, because we are not that kind of committee. That's just the nature and construct of Parliament. And I've got a duty as the chairperson, notwithstanding my own party politics of the IFP, which I can easily play out, which would be an abuse of the chair. But I cannot do that, because the work that we do rises above the politics. And I'm certain that the committee will make recommendations which are appropriate. But at the same time, our expectation is that the board, inclusive of Ms. Mavuso, must do their work and they must be held accountable. And we will continue doing so.
Mkhuleko Hlengwa, chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts in Parliament, thank you for your time this lunchtime.